Another Sunday night closer to Georgia playing this fall or winter. Not sure yet which it's going to be, but welcome. Dean Legge from Dawg Posters, another edition of this program. And tonight we're just going to chat a lot of different things. Talk about Jamie Newman. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff. So if you've got questions, go ahead and fire away. I will do my best to answer them. As I've been saying, this is something that we're going to start doing, often. I don't know about every single Sunday night, but we got a long way to go before they're playing football. It does feel like more and more like there is momentum towards a season. Whether that's right or wrong, I'm going to leave that for y'all to decide because you're the ones that've got to go to the games. I'll be there one way or the other. And so the one thing I want to talk about today is Jamie Newman the best quarterback in the SEC? And this is what I wrote about on Dawg Post today. And the biggest thing for Jamie that he's dealing with are these expectations, not necessarily from people like me, because I don't know if he's the best player in the SEC. I mean, I don't really know how you could make that, or the best quarterback in the SEC. I don't know necessarily how you could make that argument. But I'm not saying it's wrong because if you look at the quarterbacks in the league, they're good. They're not great. I mean, it's not as bad as it was when Treon Harris and Fatone Balta were starting with the SEC East on the line in 2015. But it's not exactly, I don't know, gone are guys like Aaron Murray, Zach Mettenberger, Johnny Manziel, Cam Newton, Tua is gone. Jake Fromm is gone. Joe Burrow, they're all gone. Everybody's gone. So we're living in a new world here on the front of quarterbacks in the league. And, there are some reputable outlets for sure, and Mark Richt specifically, who are touting Jamie Newman. Now, my ignorance on Jamie is not unique to me because we don't know. And here we are, May 10th. I would have suspected that by now, I would have hoped that by now we would have known better about Jamie Newman. The problem is, as you know, no spring football. And with no spring football, it's just hard to really tell and know. And of course, too, and I feel like I always have to say this, but I think it needs to be said, Jamie's got to win the job too. That's the expectation that I have. That's the expectation that the whole world has. But let's go through, not just through the motions, but do all the stuff you've got to do to really win the job. Because if it's just given to you, nobody's going to be into that. I mean, the kids on the team, they're not going to, they're just going to say, well, it was given to him, I had to earn it. And on this team, where guys like, Ben Cleveland are struggling to start, people are only going to take you seriously if you are getting your job and it's sort of earned, for lack of a better term. I'm having a hard time unless y'all are asking questions that I cannot see. I'm not seeing them yet. So fire away if you've got questions. Last week we had quite a few, and here we go. I'm doing a better job now. This is partly my fault. The other question is for everyone here. Georgia right this second is sitting at 85 scholarship players, 15 seniors, 19 juniors, 18 sophomores, 11 redshirt freshmen, and 22 players coming in who were a part of the 2020 class that are not Jamie Newman and McKitty. So pretty balanced. And the seniors are players that matter. Newman, Robertson, Schaefer, Cleveland, Herring, Wyatt, those guys, Grant, Walter Grant, but Monty Rice. And then you get to the secondary, it's Richard, DJ Daniel, and Mark Webb. There's a lot of players that have really fought their way to not just a rotation, but starting on this team. They've given a lot to this program. 15 is not a huge class. It's not small necessarily. And then you look at the class behind it with 19 guys. That's a lot. But this program is going to be defined by what happens with the guys who are seniors to sophomores. Whether you're talking about Nolan Smith, Obviously, Zamir, Jamie Newman, George Pickens. There's a slew of guys on this team that really, they're not going to. Georgia's not going to be relying on freshmen. Some of the guys I just named, whether it's Pickens or Nolan or Trayvon Walker from last year, those guys were guys that were brand new and they didn't know a lot. They've sacrificed for a year now. Now Zirkle, the place kicker, is the one freshman I think that you're going to have to deal with. Well, there's a couple. Zirkle, Keely Ringo. I would think that Jalen Carter might play a fair amount. It's very possible that Jones on the offensive line will play a lot. Really like him. Not really challenged. He grew up where I did in DeKalb County, but he was not challenged in a way that he will be in the SEC. Obviously, Darnell Washington. And then these receivers, too, are also going to be part of it. So maybe what I said a second ago is a little bit incorrect. I mean, there are a lot of guys that are young on this team, the freshmen, incoming freshmen, that are what I call double dot players. And one of these days, I'm going to show you my board over here. And it is, I finished it up today. I've got both of my boards ready to roll. And this board has every scholarship player. And are they no dot, single dot, or double dot players? What's the difference? Well, no dot is not a top 300 player, which there's a lot of dots on this board. As it relates to single dots, those are top 300 players, and double dots are top 100 players. So those are guys that you need your double dots to really perform. Obviously, there are going to be situations. Georgia does not have any double dot quarterbacks. The only double dot on my board is Brock Vandergriff, who has obviously got another season of football to go. But guys like Clay Webb, Nolan Smith. I mean, Clay Webb hadn't even played. And he was one of the few double dots that redshirted. Tyreek Stevenson, Tyson Campbell, Tyndall, Walker, Anderson, Jamari Saylor, Zamir, James Cook, Demetrius. You got Wyatt, Rochester, Grant, Johnson, LeCount, Daniel. I mean, there are a bunch of them, but the 2020 class is it's almost exclusively got Milton, Roseme, Burton, Smith, Washington, Jones, Ratledge. Tate Ratledge could certainly play. Jalen Carter, Sherman, Ringo. I mean, there's a pile of double dot players in this 2020 class, and of course, they were the number one class in the country. So it's not surprising that would be the case. Here's a question from Steve. Newman and the wide receivers seem to be the big question marks on this team. How do you think all of this will affect them on timing? That's going to affect them, no question. I mean, if you did have Jake Fromm, the one thing that you would be confident of is the fact that, this offense can, you already know what you got. And there's a certain feel, but with the way that Jake performed the last six of the last 7 games of the season, it was time for a change. And now you've got someone who is new, who certainly in Jamie, that does not have, I don't know what it's called, chemistry with guys like George Pickens. But, for George, you would imagine that with George Pickens could get the ball almost from anyone, and it would be okay. I don't know. I mean, he's an exceptional athlete, and he's a guy that again, you always want to have your camera ready if you're guys like me. Here's a question, a good one, from Killian. And if I mispronounce your name, it's not on purpose. How do you think the 21 class will shake out at the end of the day? So far, Matt DeBerry wrote about this on Dawg Post, and you can go over there and read it, dawgpost.com. We posted it. I don't know if we posted it on this Facebook feed or not, or on this YouTube channel, but we think they have a chance to go number one again. I don't know for sure. Ohio State has done a heck of a job in this particular class, but they had a lead. They had a lead not that long ago in one of these other classes, and Kirby and them came through and just sort of chopped them off and did what they wanted to do. My suspicion is that Georgia will have a top 3 class again. This is a matter of time for Georgia in terms of winning it all. In my view, I mean, I think it's a matter of time for Ohio State as well. By the way, I mean they just won it in 2014, but this would be an ideal year for Ohio State because you know what you've got with Justin, and he's an exceptional player. But every year can't be an ideal year for everyone, and for Georgia, with what Kirby has done, amassing talent, there's no real issue over here. They've got, you'd want to have a few more linebackers in this class. We'll see what happens at linebacker. I think they're going to get a couple, at least, because you only had one guy last year, Mikal Sherman. He's a hell of a player, though. But one player, no matter how good they are, it's just not enough for depth. I mean, you look at the linebacker situation for Georgia, and these the three top classes, the top 12 guys, for lack of a better term. You got 4 seniors, 4 juniors, 4 sophomores. Now, linebackers, a lot of linebackers, obviously. They're playing a lot of positions. But you got to have some linebackers in this class. I do think you have to get a couple DBs. The offensive line, they just signed a pile of them, but I think you're going to want to sign a few more. Just sign a pile of wide receivers. I think you probably are going to need to sign 1 or 2 more. I don't know that you got to sign a quarterback, but, you're getting into a situation at quarterback, and this is everybody's becoming a problem for everybody here in college football. If guys aren't playing, they're just leaving, and I think that's another issue too. Here's a question from Steve: Is this a short side? If this is a shortened season, but we win the whole thing, will we get the same respect? Couple of different, points here on that whole deal. Which is that, when you win the national championship, you win the national championship. Unless you're SC, no one's going to take that away from you. I would say that, Steve, I do not anticipate this being a shortened season as it stands right now. And I don't mean to be naive about that. I think what we're going through is a very serious public health crisis. I don't think y'all need me to repeat that. You're here to hear about Georgia. But that goes into what exactly I'm talking about, which is, will there be a full season? The economics of college football are such that this program, Georgia, and the SEC, they are going to have a full season as it stands today. I think 3 weeks ago, that may not have been what everybody was suspecting would happen. But now, it just looks like whether we're ready or not, and there's no telling if we'll know which it will be. I think that we are going to get a season period, and it will be the full season. The question, my caveat to that is, will it stop in the middle of it somehow? Will things get so bad in the fall that we stop this season? I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know. I don't know any of this stuff, frankly. But my suspicion right now, knowing I know this is a large audience that I talked to. It's about 10,000 people watched this last week, combined audiences. But y'all may or may not know this, but I have really focused for a long time on television and college sports. And one of the things that, that is a huge part of college athletics and media too. But those contracts are so big, there's so much capital at stake that I just don't think that there will not be a full 12 games. Because once you start talking about, are Virginia and Georgia going to play to open the season, Georgia may be more ready to play that game than Virginia in terms of politics. But if that game isn't played, Georgia will just play a home game against someone. It could be Georgia Southern. But right now, I think all of these games are going to get played. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just, part of my job as a reporter is to tell it like I see it. And, it looks to me right now like all 12 of Georgia's games are going to be played. That kickoff game for the Dogs is $4.5 million that they keep And that might not sound like that much in today's world. That's a little bit more than half of Kirby's salary. And, anytime you can get a few $1,000,000, there's something to be said for that, for sure. And I just, the other thing is too, will everyone be in the stands? Will all these things, I don't know the answer to that. That's harder to know the answer to. But in terms of, will they play 12 games? I think they will. And I don't think the SEC is necessarily going to wait around for everybody else to figure out their problems. When you start listening, you got to listen to what they're saying. They are definitely saying, hey, we're going to go out there and play. I don't know if everybody else is paying attention to what they're saying, but that's what they're saying. They're saying it in the nicest way possible. We're not going to wait for other people. And they're talking about the Pac-12 specifically. They could be talking about other conferences, but I think the same pressure is going to be there for the ACC just like it is the SEC and the Big Ten. The Big Ten and the SEC have the largest contracts. It's real money that's going to make their athletic department work. And so I think that's the part that everybody has to realize is that, hey, this is a season that's probably going to happen. And I think it's going to be a 12-game season. Now, to Steve's question, it could be that you don't start in September. It's totally possible that you don't start college athletics until November 1st in 2020. That's possible. But as it stands today, I am pretty certain, as it stands today, March 10th, that Georgia, Virginia, Florida State, Wyoming, whoever, that they are going to be playing regular games in front of capacity crowds. I think that's what it is. I think that's what it looks like to me. That's what the SEC and their peers are signaling. All you have to do is listen to what Jerry Moorhead, who is the president of the University of Georgia, had to say. They are planning on playing. They are planning on having graduation on October 15th for the spring semester. So that should tell you all you need to know about where their mind is at now. Is that right or wrong? That's not for me to say, and that's, again, not what y'all are here for. But I do want to say that it is totally possible that this season moves forward, in a way perhaps that people aren't expecting right now, which is to say they're expecting a real season. I don't know. But that's what it... I hate to keep talking about that, but that's something that obviously is very important in the grand scheme of things. Okay, next week we're going to talk about what's important for this Georgia team as they barrel towards 2020. I'm going to go through the whole schedule. Thank you for joining me tonight, and we will see you next week.